One of my biggest pet peeves is when people use the word speculate in financial contexts, because almost exclusively people use it wrong, in my opinion. Or at least not wrong, but in a way that's misleading. Everybody knows what the word speculate means, so I'm not going to be pedantic, but I frequently hear people use speculate as just this nasty catch-all, like dirty word for something that they don't like. There are a lot of words that are like this. Nihilist comes to mind, nihilistic. Populist is another good example. There are words that mean things, but the way that people use them is just a catch-all for things that they don't like. And in the same way, speculation, people use it as if speculation is inherently a bad thing. They'll describe investments as speculative, which I get what they're trying to say is that it's risky, but everything is speculative, and so it's a useless word to use. An example of this: you watching this video right now is a speculation that it is actually about what I say it's going to be about, and it's not a rickroll. I say this to clients all the time. You attending a meeting with me, you are speculating by showing up that I didn't get hit by a meteor overnight. These are worthwhile things to speculate on because the chance of them happening is almost zero, but never zero. I speculate with my tax planning personally. I contribute to my Roth 401k. This is a speculation that it's a speculation on two counts. One is that I will be making more money in the future than I am now. I would hope that everybody takes the same stance in speculating on themselves, because otherwise, maybe you'll stay the same. I guess if you're later in your career, maybe you won't increase dramatically in terms of your pay. But in general, especially if you're young, you should hope to be making more in the future than you are now. The second thing that I'm speculating on is that tax rates will be greater or higher in the future than they are now. And I think that's a reasonable speculation too. It may or may not happen. Yes, that's the definition of speculation. But there are things that are worth speculating on. I have a huge concentration of my personal portfolio in Robinhood stock. This certainly could come to bite me in the future, but for now, I'm doing okay. My purchase in Robinhood is speculation that the company will perform better than the market currently expects. Technically, that's purchasing pretty much any stock is a speculation that it's going to do better than what the market is currently pricing in. Buying the S&P 500 is a speculation that America is going to continue growing its GDP and corporations are going to continue growing their profits. That's a reasonable speculation. I also own a substantial amount of Bitcoin relative to my net worth. This is a speculation that the government is going to continue spending irrationally, which I think is wholeheartedly a reasonable speculation, but it's also a speculation that Bitcoin is going to remain the primary brand for cryptocurrency, or the primary flag behind which people rally in, it's not really in protest of the government, that's not the point that I'm trying to make, but in support of greater fiscal responsibility. Bitcoin is just a brand. I realize that. If one day the facts present themselves to me to make me believe that Bitcoin is not going to be that brand anymore, then I'll buy something else, right? But for now, this is the thing most worth speculating on, in my opinion. A huge core concept in finance and investment management is that you can achieve better results by just doing two things rather than speculating and choosing one over another. And I feel like this is why people in the finance space get a bad rap, rightfully so, for being so wishy-washy. Because everything they say is like, well, it could be this, it could be that. If the stock market's not up, I think it could go down. And if it doesn't go down, it might go sideways for a while. Well, yeah, those are the only things that could happen. But people, financial advisors especially, get this bad rap because we have been taught, rightfully so, it is empirically the correct answer to, when you're presented with two options that seem equally good, rather than picking one or the other, you just do both. That's diversification. Your purchase of both of them, your choice to diversify between the two of those options, is a speculation that either of those options is going to do well in general, and that the options that you choose also don't get hit by a meteor. So using the word speculation is utterly useless. People describe it as if it's this dirty, nasty thing that shouldn't ever be touched. It is impossible not to speculate. A much more productive framework is thinking about what speculations you are actively taking. I mentioned that I own Bitcoin. I also own some really long-term Bitcoin options for the IBIT ETF. If you don't know what it is, it's just a Bitcoin fund. In general, I don't like options. because you are speculating. Here's that. I'm doing it right now, right? I'm describing something that I don't like, but it is a speculation under my broad definition. My problem with options in general is that the speculations are much more defined and constrained. For example, if you're purchasing a call option, you are not only speculating as to the price action of that stock, which is reasonable, but you're also speculating within a certain magnitude. You're saying, I think that it will go up by such and such percent. And you're also speculating on that magnitude and, by extension, the direction within a given time frame. I think that it will go this direction by this much before this date. Otherwise, I will lose all my money. And that type of speculation, when you stack all of those things on top of each other, you're basically asking to hit the nastiest parlay of all time. And that's why a wild percentage of all options expire worthless. Because in order for all of those things to happen, you need to be right on a simultaneous large number of things, on a large number of things simultaneously, and nobody can do that consistently. I'm a hypocrite, kind of, because I mentioned that I own options in IVIT. I own options for a very specific reason. They're long dated, so it's like a little over 2 years. So that, to an extent, eliminates the time constraint, but not completely. It's still there. It's directionally accurate, but I already own, or it's directionally speculative, but I already own Bitcoin, and that's already a directional speculation. So I'm okay with that. It is, to an extent, a speculation in terms of the magnitude by which the price will go up, but my options are deeply in the money. So that's also less of a factor at play here. The reason that I purchased these options is because I was targeting a very specific leverage factor. I won't get into it, but I was trying to get a certain percentage of my net worth in exposure to Bitcoin, and I decided I didn't want to tie up the amount of money that it would require. So for the last little bit to get me up to the exposure target that I wanted, I used options so that I could have an innate leverage, right? I got effectively a 2-to-1 leverage ratio on my money. The caveat, of course, being that I can only sustain that leverage ratio for about 2 years, at which point I'd have to reassess if I want to drop my leverage ratio, right? I'm kind of losing the point here. My point is this. Speculation itself is not a bad thing, and we need to stop calling things that we don't like speculation, because everything is a speculation, and you cannot avoid it. What you do need to do is strongly consider what you are speculating about when you make these decisions. Again, this applies broadly beyond just investing. I mentioned my 401k, but also your education, right? Your degree is a speculation that you're going to find a job that pays better, and once you factor in the time value of money, is going to be able to pay you back more than the cost of the interest on your student loan debt, right? This concept has rippling meaning to all sorts of other things beyond just investments. And so my admonition is for you to think about, when you're making these types of decisions, what are you really speculating on? And is that something that you want to be speculating on?